Hi, folks. My name is Zaid Hnaim. I am the full-time events and outreach staff person at CSER, and my pronouns are he, him. Today, as I'm sure all of you folks know because you registered or you're tuning in on Facebook, but this is going to be a bit of a session on how to navigate online learning with Zoom 101 and also tips on being successful. It's not ideal necessarily that we're being forced into this area of online education, but it's important that we know how to succeed in it and how to use those services that our courses are being offered in. So the structure of what today is going to look like is going to be Maddie, who is CSER's VP Equity and Campaigns, is going to be starting you folks off with a slideshow about how to access Zoom and how to use D2L and things like that, followed by Carol Sutherland, who is our Vice President Operations at CSER and an amazing community worker who is going to fill you in on some of those tips to be successful in online learning. But before we get into the bulk of the event, I just wanted to start us off with the land acknowledgement. So Toronto and land acknowledgements are kind of tricky right now because we're all in different places, right? So I don't know what the land acknowledgement is for your city, but I recommend looking it up. If you go to nativeland.ca, it's an amazing resource, and you put in where you live and it'll show you the treaties and the Indigenous communities of that land. But for Toronto, where the CSER office is situated, this is the land acknowledgement. So Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit that share the territory and protect the land. The reason it's called the Dish with One Spoon is because traditionally Toronto was a meeting ground for a lot of various Indigenous communities because we're close to the water, because those various things. It was a very naturally rich area. So it was naturally a meeting spot for a lot of Indigenous communities. So the dish is to represent the idea that it's such a naturally rich land and that everyone eats and lives off that land in the spirit of respect. The reason it's a dish with a spoon and not a dish with a knife or a fork is to represent that we're coming together in the spirit of peace with no weapons or sharp objects at that table. Tkaronto, or Toronto as you folks know it, actually is a derivative of the Indigenous word Tkaronto, which literally translates to where the trees meet the water, which I think is really beautiful. And that's why Toronto is named the way it is. Settlers just have a funny way of messing up Indigenous words. Sometimes if you look at Ottawa and Odawa and Canada with Canada, various things like that. But that's the land acknowledgement. And I think as we move through these very uncertain times of this pandemic, recognizing that these are not unprecedented times for Indigenous communities. Indigenous communities have been living with the pandemic of colonialism, have had to put up with multiple pandemics throughout history, whether that be smallpox or the various other genocidal pandemics that Western colonialism and European settlers have brought. At CSER, we like to add a little bit of a personal anecdote to the end of the land acknowledgements because we recognize that just reading a land acknowledgement doesn't actually do anything for Indigenous communities and doesn't really do much for you folks either, because I'm sure we've all sat through a meeting space or sat through an event where something has just been read off non-emotionally. So I think it's important that we really tie it to the situations and the context that we're in. With that being said, I won't take up too much of your time. I'm sure you folks have heard enough of my voice over the past few weeks. But the structure for this panel, as I mentioned, is going to be that slideshow followed by Carol's tips and tricks for online learning. We ask that if you folks have any questions, that you send an email to outreach@mycaesar.ca. I will put the spelling of that in the chat just so it's a little bit easier for folks, or if you forget, I'm not sure if you're like me and you're forgetful, but I always forget things like that. So again, it's outreach@mycaesar.ca, and I'll be sure to answer all of your questions. And if I can't answer them, I will send them to Carol or Maddie or whoever would be better suited to answering those. But with that being said, Maddie, I will give it to you to take away.
Great, thank you, Zaid. I really appreciate that. And thanks for the land acknowledgement. That's really important for all of us to think about our own connection to the land and to think a bit more about what Zaid presented to us today. So I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about Zoom, which is going to be the platform that a lot of us are participating in our schoolwork, in our meetings, in a lot of places right now. Zoom is the platform. So a bit more information about that. We also recognize that, especially for mature students, that sometimes the assumption that everybody has equal knowledge of how to use these platforms is not fair. So we're also kind of keeping that in mind and keeping our mature students in mind, because I know there's lots of us, including me. So this is our Zoom 101 and Success in Online Learning presentation. So for the agenda for Zoom 101, basic tools, functions, etiquette, and help. So before you join the Zoom call, you're going to want to check 3 things for sure: your location, your connection, and your access. So for your location and your setting, you want to secure a quiet and a comfortable space if you can. So I know that's not always possible, but wherever it is possible, letting folks know that are around you that you're going into a class at this time. If you can, to kind of use a space where you can close a door so that it is a bit more quiet, that can be helpful. And if that's not ever possible, then we recognize that isn't available for everyone, and to just do the best you can to facilitate an environment that's not distracting for yourself. A comfortable space as well is really important. So making sure that your computer is on a stable surface, so you're not kind of reaching down with your neck or bending down all the time to try to look at things and read things and be typing. If you can elevate your computer up to eye level, that's usually the most comfortable place to put it. Try to not be sitting on the ground. Try to have a chair that is comfortable for you, because often sitting for a long time in one space can be a bit difficult. And with Zoom, sometimes we're expected to do things back to back instead of having little breaks to stand up and move around that we do have usually when we're doing things in non-COVID times. So also make sure to take that break if you need it, making sure that you're prioritizing yourself and your own ability to do that work. So if you're sitting in an uncomfortable position all day one day, it might impact how much you're able to do your schoolwork another day. So making sure that as much as possible, you're taking care of yourself. Okay, we're back, sorry. Enough light and least noise or interruptions. So again, if your camera is on, you're gonna wanna have enough light so that people can kind of see you. And the least noise or interruptions possible is also for other folks, so that if your microphone is on and you're talking, it can be hard if you have hard of hearing, or you have any kind of hearing issues. If there's any background noise, it can be a little bit difficult. So trying to keep yourself on mute, or if you're speaking, trying to have as few noise or interruptions is also helpful for the other people who are in your class. Also face the door to avoid surprises in the background, because you may see the viral videos from time to time. That's a normal thing that happens. It's not always something you can avoid, but if you face the door, sometimes there'll be less surprises. This is how you connect. So if you're coming into your class using Zoom, you're going to use something called SSO. For some meetings, it's required as a form of security to get into the call, that you're signing in with a single sign-on feature. So rather than the Google account that you use for your personal account or your Facebook, you're using the single sign-on feature with your Ryerson ID. And that basically means that you don't have to have an account. It's a single sign-on for this one individual time, and you're using an account that's already created for you by Ryerson. So when you're doing that, you're going to see this kind of box, and you're going to click on sign in with SSO. And then you're going to use your Ryerson information. So your Ryerson username and your password to get in, the same way you would with My Ryerson. So this is a bit more information about how to do that. When you're signing in with SSO, you're going to put ryerson.zoom.us. Then you'll see the little Ryerson table where you have your username and your password. You're going to put that in, press login. Then you should have a pop-up here that says Open Zoom US. So that's how you know it worked, because it's trying to open the system. So then you're going to click on Open Zoom US, and that opens it on your computer or on your phone if you're on your phone, and there's no need for a download by doing that. So single sign-on means that you are not downloading anything and you're not making an account. You're using one that's already created. For your access, download Zoom onto your laptop and on your phone for backup. So I have it in both places just in case I'm late to getting to my computer. I can log in on my phone. The phone feature for Zoom is pretty accessible and pretty easy to use, I've found. And it's a good backup in case you're worried about not always being where your computer is on time. But I also find that it is easiest to use your laptop. So wherever possible, it's easiest to do that. Become familiar with Zoom's features, so computer and on your phone. So kind of figuring out, you see those little features at the bottom, and you're seeing it on the bottom of this call too. Those are in different places on your phone. So if you are expecting to be using your phone for Zoom, or you usually use your phone, you're expecting to use your computer, try it out on the other platform, just so you can get used to where the features and the buttons are that you might be used to in a different location. And the ones that are going to be really, really important are the ones that are circled here. So mute and start video on the bottom left. That's going to enable your participation in the class. So preventing folks from seeing kind of what you're doing. And also, if you click on the little arrow next to start video, you can also kind of enable a background. So if you're concerned about, I don't want to show my house where I'm living, my room is messy today, or maybe even there are things happening in the background, people walking around, you can hide your background by clicking on the little arrow and then a virtual desktop. So you can choose from ones that are already there as examples, or you can upload your own. And those are useful ways to kind of hide your background and also maybe make a statement if you want to. So for me, sometimes I put up a free education background because that's something I believe in and I like for everyone to know it. And the mute feature on the left, the same thing. If you're using headphones, sometimes the speaker on the computer is a bit better. So sometimes what I do is I press the little arrow next to mute and I turn on my microphone on the computer, but I leave the audio on my earphones. So that's also an option that you can have you don't have to use, if you're using headphones, you don't have to use the microphone on the headphones. You can choose which features you want where. So that's a really interesting option for mute, the ability to use the computer's microphone and the headphones audio. To participate again on the, you see the orange circle here. Sorry, the lights went off here at Caesar. And I'm gonna go back because that distracted me. The chat is a feature that's really important. So that's going to enable you to participate with your other classmates. It's a good way to start conversations, to talk to your instructor. You have the ability there to direct your comments specifically at an instructor or to other classmates. Sometimes they turn that feature off, but if it's available, then just notice it and use it if you'd like to. It's a good way to meet people even while we're online and to kind of stay involved. And then the share your screen button that's in green there enables you to show your work. So you'll sometimes be asked to do that in a class. If you've been working on something, you click on that and then everyone can see what's on your screen. So that's what I'm doing right now. And Ryerson also has a tool that's there. The link is there. Ryerson.ca digital media projects /tools/Zoom. So there's also the Ryerson resource for how to use Zoom. This is the Change bot, or the Chang bot, sorry. So when you're coming onto certain Ryerson websites, you'll see this little Chang bot, and this is here to answer some of your questions. So it's basically a question bar with a robot on it. And if you have a technical question, you can ask it here. And then we're moving to success in online learning. So I think I will stop sharing my screen. If you have any questions, please just direct them to Zaid at outreach@mycaesar.ca and Zaid will pass them on to me. So thanks a lot and good luck with your Zoom classes. You're muted, by the way, Carol. And that's another thing I'll just mention for Zoom, because this happens constantly, and to me all the time. Just remember to unmute yourself when you're about to speak, or keep yourself muted when you don't want to be heard.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Maddie. That's a really great example here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. As Zed said, my name is Carol Sutherland. And I'm a mature student at Ryerson. I've been in the certificate, the Caribbean Studies certificate, and I've been taking many, many, many courses and successfully in different, this is my 6th certificate now at Ryerson. What I could tell you as a mature student for you to be really successful here is, one, as soon as you get your course outline and you navigate yourself through your Zoom and you up and you're running, read your course outline. Read a course outline and get a book. If your course have a book, download your books. Start reading ahead. When a class start, always be prepared. As Maddie say, find a very quiet spot. Make sure that there's no surprise coming from behind. Make sure you're facing your door. You set up, you have your water, you have what you need. If you have to get up and stretch every, like for me, every hour I have to. So if it's a 3-hour class, I have to take my own, set my timer. You can put it on vibration, so as soon as the phone starts to vibrate, you get up, and in that 15 minutes, you stop your video, you make sure that no one is not seeing you, and you stretch by time you're listening to what the professor have to say. As soon as you get yourself comfortable and you have everything organized and you read ahead, communicate with your professor. So, a lot of the time people will say, well, this is COVID. I don't really want to, over communicate. Well, this is COVID. You need to over communicate, because you're not going to get everything right away. You're going to be distracted. You have your family. It's everything you're doing within your house, within your environment. You're not on campus. So communicate to your professor. Give your professor 48 hours, between 24 to 48 hours to communicate with you. If they don't, then you continue to communicate. So give them at least 2 days and continue to communicate. Always try and read your course outline and your course material like a week ahead. So if you have chapter 1 to 15, always be at least chapter 2. So if the teacher said, okay, we are chapter 1 this week, you also read chapter 2. Because when you read ahead of your schoolwork, what it does, when the question is, it really reinforce what you already read, because you will literally see, understand the connection. So my advice to a mature student or to any student, please read ahead a chapter. Always read a chapter ahead. So you're in chapter 4, read chapter 5. Even though you're in class 4, read chapter 5. You are able to engage, you are able to take better notes, and you could see that connection. Also, what is a really, really, really good tip too is look on your chat. So because everything is on Zoom, a lot of students is going to be communicating through the chat. Look at the chat, look at the Blackboard, look to see what they're posting. And if you realize that you and 2 other students are in line with your ideas, like you'll find like you will put something up you'll post something and you find like, Charmin, Rob, Bob, and yourself, three of you all have the same alignment. Then you already have three people besides yourself, four to communicate with. So you're going to create study group. Study groups are very, very important to create during this time because everything is online. So you privately send them an email, say, hey, I realize that we tend to be online. Our ideas are in line with each other. Would you like to have a study group? Create a study group. Don't wait for the professors to do that. That will help because now you have three other people that you could, students like yourself, that you could discuss the material. So you won't feel like you're isolated, you're all alone, you're missing your peers. And then organize some Zoom, like a Zoom call. So in all of my classes that I take online, I organize study buddies. We come together and then like a Sunday afternoon, like 5 to 6, 1 hour, we do a Zoom in and we all talk about, okay, I read this. What do you think we need to do? What do you think the teacher was asking for? And then one person might email the teacher and then send the email back to us. We are all CC on the email. So if it's nothing else, my takeaway, my tips for you, one, find like-minded students in your class, create a buddy, a study buddy, over communicate with your professor. There's nothing like under over. Communicate with your professor. Let them know who you are and where you stand in this. Make sure that you find a comfortable place that you could be with, minimize the distraction, that you could study and you could focus and you could be really fully engaged into your class. And the fourth thing to do, make sure that you read ahead of your material, your course material. Always read ahead. And one more thing I will say, instruction. Listen to what the professor have to say. If you're not clear, go back again to communication. Please email, communicate. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That was great, Carol. I appreciate that. I just wanted to add as well, we have great volunteer opportunities at CSER. In usual in-person times, there would be a lot more opportunities to do things in person and kind of get to know your classmates and other students that way. But since we're online, we've moved some of our volunteer opportunities online as well. So if you'd like to use those opportunities, use the Track It Forward system, and we welcome you to volunteer with CSER. So we actually have one of our amazing volunteers here. Cedra, if you don't mind just talking a little bit about some of the things that you're interested in as a student and what you're studying and kind of why you like volunteering as something to do in your spare time and how it contributes to Ryerson's students.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Maddie. So in terms of, I am in my human resources program with Chang School. I have been volunteering since the summer for CSER. They do actually do a lot of events, I would say from educational to social, to advocacy, and tomorrow's Orange T-shirt Day. Do sign up, do support, even if you're just supporting by wearing an orange T-shirt. I think it goes a long way. Even if you're in the workforce, we're all doing the same thing. Even a small thing can make a huge impact. The other thing I would mention, there's always mental health workshops they've always been doing as well. There is career workshops that will be coming late October, November, I believe. I do enjoy working because it's such a nice and inclusive team. I felt comfortable from the day one. I was kind of shy and hesitant that how will it be? But I would recommend anyone, there's always rewards at the end of volunteering. Even if when you're out there looking for jobs, they look at this, they look at how confident you are, how outspoken you were, and how involved you were with your university. It's helped me before when I did my bachelor's, and it would help you guys as well. It goes a long way. I was part of student union as one of my other universities, and I think being part of CSER at Ryerson, it honestly pays off, whether you're long down the road. So I would recommend anyone to join and sign up for the team, even if it's a few hours that you can do between classes. I would definitely recommend to do it.
Great. Thank you so much, Sita. That was awesome. And thank you for mentioning as well Orange Shirt Day. That's really important. So I'm actually going to leave a link as well to the strike in the chat. So if our students would like to join us, it's a student strike that's happening tomorrow against anti-Indigeneity and anti-Black racism in the educational system, including at Ryerson. I really appreciate you bringing that up, Sidra, and I really appreciate the work you do for us at CSER and for all of our students. So if you'd like to be as awesome as Sidra and volunteer with CSER, please also reach out to Zaid at outreach@mycaesar.ca. And I'm just going to post, that's the link to the student strike tomorrow. And it would be great if we could see folks there because it's really important.
Amazing. Well, I think that brings us to the end. I know it was scheduled for 2 hours, but we really weren't sure how long some of those different components were going to take. So we appreciate you folks for being with us while you were. Again, if you ever have any questions about any of the things that we talked about today, I will put my email in the chat one more time, just so it's a nice refresher for folks. And you can absolutely reach out to me anytime throughout the year. It doesn't have to be about this event, but if you have any questions about any of the things we talked about or other things, feel free to shoot me a message. I just put it in the chat again. But with that being said, we really appreciate all of you folks coming out. I hope to see you tomorrow at the strike. It's going to be amazing. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think it's going to be amazing. And I absolutely look forward to seeing you folks there. Also, sorry, one last thing. I'm in the process. I know you thought you could get away. I'm so sorry. I'm working on creating a resource guide with all of the free Wi-Fi locations in the GTA. So that would include Mississauga, Scarborough, North York, and downtown. Just because I figured that while we're doing online learning, we're taking into account that a lot of people, assuming a lot of people rather, have internet, when a lot of us know that it's absurdly expensive. Actually, some of the highest prices in Canada are in Ontario, which is one of the highest prices in the world. So we know how inaccessible that is. So I will work on creating that resource guide. I apologize. I wanted to have it done for this event, but I ended up having to focus on some other things, but I will get that to you folks as soon as possible. We will post it on our Facebook page, and I will also email it out to our overall membership on our listserv. But yeah, thanks so much for attending. Now you folks can go. I am so sorry for taking up more of your time, but have an amazing evening.
Thank you. Bye.